What if everything you think you are, your name, your story, your fears, your preferences, your memories, what if all of that is just a tiny fraction of what you actually are? Not in a poetic, feel-good way, but in a deeply literal, experiential way that changes how you move through the world. In chapter 13 of The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer takes us somewhere most spiritual teachings only hint at. He calls it far, far beyond, and he means it. Beyond the mind, beyond the ego, beyond the version of yourself you've spent a lifetime constructing and defending. Singer isn't asking you to improve yourself in this chapter. He isn't offering a technique to manage your thoughts or calm your anxiety. He's pointing to something far more radical, the possibility of stepping out of your limited self entirely and discovering that what you truly are has no edges, no wounds, and no end. If you've ever felt like life is happening to you rather than through you, or like there's something vast just behind your everyday experience that you can almost touch but can't quite reach, this chapter is for you. Let's go there. Singer opens this chapter by asking a question that cuts right to the core. Who are you really? And he doesn't mean that philosophically, he means it practically. Because most of us have answered that question, unconsciously, with a very specific and very limited response. We are our thoughts, we are our emotions, we are our personal history, our relationships, our beliefs, our preferences, the stories we tell about what happened to us and why it matters. We've built an entire identity out of these things, and then we live inside that identity as though it were a house we can never leave. Singer calls this the illusion of separation. The moment we began identifying with the content of our minds, with the inner voice, the emotional reactions, the accumulated memories, we created a sense of a separate self, a self that feels cut off from the world, that feels vulnerable, that needs protecting, that needs validating. And here's the thing, that self feels completely real. It has a whole inner world. It has preferences and opinions and deeply held convictions. But Singer is pointing out that this entire structure is constructed. It's a story layered on top of something much deeper and much more open. The ego isn't evil, and Singer doesn't ask us to hate it or fight it, but he does ask us to see it clearly, to recognize that when we're fully identified with it, we're living in a very small room inside a vast open universe. The illusion of separation is the beginning of suffering, and seeing through it is the beginning of something far, far beyond what we've settled for. So if we're not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the personal story, then what are we? Singer's answer is both simple and staggering. We are the awareness in which all of those things arise. He's talking about pure consciousness, the silent, witnessing presence that is always here, always aware, completely undisturbed by whatever's happening in the mind or in the world. Think about it this way. Your thoughts change, your moods change, your circumstances change. Your body changes, but the awareness that notices all of those changes, that awareness has been with you your entire life. It was there when you were a child. It's here now. It doesn't age, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't carry wounds. It simply is. Singer describes this as the nature of consciousness itself. Vast, boundless, luminous. Not something you have to create or earn or meditate your way into. It's already what you are. The challenge is that we're so fixated on the contents of consciousness, the thoughts, the feelings, the narratives, that we miss the consciousness itself. It's like being so focused on the movie playing on the screen that you forget the screen is even there. The screen never changes. The movie is always moving. Pure consciousness is the screen. And Singer is inviting us to stop identifying with the movie and start resting in the screen. This is what he means when he points us far, far beyond the drama, beyond the noise, into the open, aware space that is our deepest nature. Now here's where Singer goes even deeper, and this is where the teaching gets really interesting. He talks about something called the witness, that part of you that steps back and observes your thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them. Many spiritual traditions teach this as the goal. Become the witness. Watch your mind from a distance. Don't get identified with it. And that's genuinely useful. It creates space. It reduces reactivity. It helps you stop being pulled around by every passing mood or thought. But Singer says something surprising. Even the witness is still a position. Even watching your thoughts is still a subtle form of separation, the observer standing apart from the observed. And at a certain point, even that position needs to be released. The invitation in this chapter is to move beyond being the watcher and into simply being, an open, undivided awareness that doesn't stand apart from experience but includes it all. Not watching life from a safe distance, but being fully present as the consciousness that life moves through. This isn't passive. It's actually the most alive and engaged way to exist. Because when you're no longer working to protect a limited self, when you're no longer managing how experiences affect the ego, you can be fully here, fully open. The trees, the conversations, the emotions, the silence, all of it moves through a consciousness that isn't bracing itself against any of it. That openness, Singer says, is not something you arrive at once and stay in forever. It's a direction you keep pointing yourself toward. One of the most profound things Singer describes in this part of the book is what begins to happen when you genuinely start releasing attachment to your personal story and individual identity. The boundaries begin to dissolve, not in a terrifying way, in a liberating way. We carry so many invisible walls, walls between ourselves and other people, walls between who we are now and who we think we should be, walls built out of past hurt, future fear, personal preference, tribal identity. These walls feel protective, but Singer argues they're actually the source of our suffering, not the solution to it. Because every wall you build to keep pain out also keeps aliveness out. It keeps connection out. It keeps the fullness of experience out. As you stop reinforcing those walls, as you stop feeding the story of who you are and what you need and what's been done to you, something remarkable begins to open. You start to feel a sense of belonging that has nothing to do with circumstances, a sense of being held in something far larger than your personal narrative. Singer describes this as discovering that you are part of something far greater and more expansive than the self you've been defending all this time. The individual drop recognizes the ocean, and the recognition doesn't erase the drop, it contextualizes it. You're still here, still present, still you. But the you that you are is no longer a small, frightened thing trying to make it through the day. It's something that belongs to the whole. That's what far, far beyond means in this context. Beyond the smallness, into the vastness that was always there. Singer closes this chapter with a teaching that might be the most countercultural idea in the whole book. True freedom, he says, does not come from fixing yourself. It does not come from healing all your wounds, upgrading your mindset, achieving your goals, or finally becoming the best version of yourself. All of those things have their place, but they're working within the framework of the limited self. And the limited self, no matter how refined or evolved, is still a limited self. Real liberation comes from stepping beyond it, not running from it, not suppressing it, not bypassing the real work of being a human being, but ultimately not being confined to it either. Singer describes this as moving into the unrestricted space of pure awareness, a place where you're no longer at the mercy of your inner weather, where circumstances don't determine your well-being, where you're not endlessly managing the gap between what is and what you wish were true. This sounds abstract, but Singer insists it's the most practical thing possible, because when you're no longer constantly managing and protecting a personal identity, you have an enormous amount of energy freed up, energy for genuine presence, energy for love, energy for actually showing up in your life instead of just surviving it. Far, far beyond the ego, beyond the personal story, beyond even the witness, there is a freedom that doesn't depend on anything outside you. That's what Singer is pointing to. Not a philosophy to believe, not a state to achieve once and never lose, but a direction to live in, deeper and more open with each passing day. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to sit with this chapter. It's one that really asks something of you, and the fact that you're here says a lot. I'd genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Where in your life do you feel most identified with the limited self, the story, the patterns, the walls, and what would it feel like to step even slightly beyond that? There's no right answer, just your honest reflection. If this kind of deep, unhurried exploration of consciousness and spiritual awakening resonates with you, please subscribe. We're working through the Untethered Soul chapter by chapter, and there's so much more to come.